Welcome to our channel, where epic battles and powerful magic collide. In the kingdom of Eldoria, a prophecy foretold the rise of a chosen hero who would unite the realm against the encroaching darkness. But as the shadow of evil loomed, two rival factions emerged, each believing they held the key to vanquishing the approaching doom. Yet neither knew that their destinies were intertwined. In the northern wastes, warriors skilled in ice and lightning forged alliances. To their south, the Sunlands readied blazing magics. To their east, assassins moved in the shadows. To their west, bards composed songs of hope. And from the forests, deep within their lands, came druids, their hearts attuned with nature's ancient wisdom. Each believed they alone could save Eldoria, unaware that their paths would converge upon a single hero whose choices would shape the fate of all. With that, let the story begin. In a land where kings ruled not just with crowns, but with fear, there lived a ruler whose name echoed like thunder across the mountains, King Zalron the Ironheart. His palace stood on a crimson hill, soaked in the blood of his enemies. And within those marble halls, two sons were raised, not as brothers, but as rivals. One was Prince Kael the Elder, wise, calm, a warrior of silence. The other, Prince Rayan, the Younger, fierce and burning with ambition. They were born of different mothers, and raised under the shadow of one terrifying truth: only one shall rule, the other shall fall. Scene 1, the crown that divides. The throne room was cold that day, not because of the stone floors, but because of the silence. King Zalron sat on the black throne, his voice gruffed as he looked at his two sons. "The time is near," he said, stroking his gray beard. "One of you will wear this crown after me, but only one." Kael stepped forward. His armor was clean, his sword never drawn without cause. "Father, I do not desire the throne. I desire peace." Rayan smirked. "And that's why you'll never get it, brother." The tension between them was visible even to the guards. For years, Rayan had trained with fire in his heart, not to protect the kingdom, but to control it. While Kael trained in philosophy, diplomacy, and loyalty, Rayan made secret visits to the dungeons, whispering promises to dangerous men. Scene 2. The Mother of Darkness, what the world did not know, was the power behind Rayan's hunger. Her name was Lady Saphira, Rayan's mother, once a queen, now banished to the East Wing, away from the court. She whispered into Rayan's ears at night, "Greater than that throne is yours by right. Hell's mother stole your father's love. Take back what is ours, not just the crown, but revenge." Rayan's eyes would glow in the candlelight. He wasn't just after power, he wanted justice, his kind. Greater than he doesn't deserve the throne, mother. He doesn't know what it means to bleed for it. Saphira smiled. "Then make him bleed for it, my son." Scene 3. Blood on the training ground one morning, during the royal sword training, things went too far. A heavy silence hung over the courtyard. Kael and Rayan stood opposite each other, their weapons held high. Her father, King Zoltron, watched intently from a raised platform. Kael, the elder prince, was a picture of controlled power. His movements were precise, his defense impenetrable. Rayan, the younger and more impulsive prince, attacked with raw aggression. His strikes were wild, his anger evident in each swing. As the training continued, tensions escalated. Suddenly, Rayan broke ranks, lunging at Kael with a fierce roar. His sword aimed not at Kael's weapon, but at his throat. Startled, Kael parried the unexpected attack, their blades clashing. The crowd gasped. King Zoltron's face hardened with disapproval. The duel continued, escalating in intensity. But Rayan's actions were reckless, driven by uncontrolled emotions rather than strategic intent. Finally, Kael disarmed Rayan with a swift kick, his sword clattering to the ground. Kael could have ended the fight swiftly, but he chose restraint, sheathing his own weapon. He offered Rayan a hand to help him up, but Rayan glared back, refusing the gesture. He picked up his fallen sword, his eyes blazing with resentment. "You fight with hate," Kael whispered. "And you fight without fire," Rayan hissed. The king stood, furious. Enough. Princes who fight like animals are no sons of mine. But inside, he had already made his choice. Scene 4. The assassin in the night. That same night, Kael was awoken by a strange noise. A flicker of movement in the dark. He reached for his dagger under the pillow, An assassin, in his chambers, silent, swift, and deadly, masked in shadows. The blade came down, but Kael rolled away, grabbing his sword just in time. Greater than clang, the fight lasted seconds. Kael stabbed the attacker through the chest, but when he removed the mask, his heart stopped. It was one of the royal guards, not a thief, not a stranger. Inside job, scene 5. A brother's poisoned Kael rushed to his father's chamber, dragging the dead assassin. Someone tried to kill me. A guard. This was not random. King Zalron stared at the body. Cold, silent, then turned away. Enemies grow from shadows, Kael. You must learn to survive. You think I'm a fool? This was ordered by Rayan. Zalron didn't reply. But a faint whisper escaped his lips. Greater than kill him and earn your right to rule. Kael's eyes widened. This wasn't about justice. This was a test. You want us to kill each other? Zalron stood. Only the strongest deserves the throne. That is how kings are made. Kael turned and left, his heart heavy, his blood boiling. Scene 6. A pact of revenge outside the palace. In the forest near the Whispering Lake, Kael met with his most loyal friend, Commander Idris, head of the palace guard. It was Rayan. I know it, Kael said. He's trying to eliminate me before father chooses his heir. Idris looked toward the palace, then back at Kael. Greater than you must strike first. Kael clenched his fists. I don't want the throne, but I won't die for his ambition. He picked up his sword. From today, this is no longer a fight for the crown. This is a war for survival. Scene 7. Rayan's oath at the same time. In the East Wing, Rayan kneeled before his mother, a bloodied dagger in his hand. The assassin failed. Kael lives. Sahara's eyes flared. Then you must kill him yourself. Rayan looked toward the stars from the window. I won't stop until he's dead. Not for the throne, but for what his mother did to us. He looked into the fire. The kingdom will burn before Kael wears that crown. With that, the story ends. What happens next is up to you. Will Kael reclaim his birthright, or will Rayan avenge their mother? The choice is yours, so choose wisely.
Thank you for watching.
Don't forget to share your thoughts and support our work. I'll see you next time. Welcome to the channel. Today's story is brought to you by our patrons. We run this channel because we love bringing stories like this to life, but we could do more if we had more help. Our patrons get exclusive perks like monthly podcasts, early access to all our videos, and more. Go check it out if you're interested. Or better yet, let's dive right into this week's story. When the sun rose over the kingdom of Velmora, it did not rise over peace. It rose over silence and the smell of betrayal. Prince Kael now knew the truth. His brother Rayan wanted him dead, and his father, King Zalron, had no interest in stopping it. The palace was no longer a home. It was a hunting ground, and the game had already begun. Scene 1, The Gathering Storm. Kael stood in the royal library. A room once filled with books of wisdom is now filled with shadows. His trusted commander Idris laid out a map. There are whispers in the West Wing. Rayan's training his own soldiers. Secretly, they answer only to him. Kael nodded. We can't attack first. That will make me the traitor. Idris placed a dagger on the map. Then we don't attack. We expose him. Kael looked away. If we fail, I die. If we succeed, I still lose my brother Idris. He was never your brother. Not since he chose revenge over blood. Scene 2. Rayan's Circle of Fire. In the palace's abandoned wine cellar, Prince Rayan met with 6 cloaked men. Rogues, outlaws, former knights turned mercenaries. Want him taken in pieces or whole? One of the cloaked men, Draz, a scar-faced killer, grinned. Rayan raised a hand. Not yet. Let him come close. Let him think he's winning. Then I'll burn everything he loves. He leaned closer, his voice like poison. Scene 3. The Old Servant's Secret. In the dark of the night, Kael was approached by Elder Haroun, the palace's oldest servant, a man who had served both queens. Haroun whispered, Your stepmother, Sahira, she poisoned the king's first wife. Your mother, Kael froze. What? Haroun nodded. The king buried the truth. He feared scandal. So he gave Sahira the East Wing instead of exile. Kael's hands shook. Everything he thought he knew was a lie. Then Rayan's war isn't just about power, he muttered. It's his mother's revenge, Haroun. And now it's yours too. Scene 4. The Trap. Kael sent a message, a fake letter, forged to look like orders from the king. It ordered a secret meeting in the Hall of Echoes, an underground chamber where whispers turned into screams. Kael waited in the shadows with Idris and 2 hidden guards. Rayan arrived with 2 mercenaries at his side. He read the fake letter, smirking. So it begins. Kael stepped forward. No, brother, it ends. Swords were drawn, tension high. Rayan didn't blink. You think a forged letter and a few soldiers will stop me? He dropped a coin, a signal. From the ceiling rafters, 3 more assassins dropped down, blades in hand. A full ambush. Clang, slash, arrows fly. Steel clashed with steel. Dust rose in the ancient hall. Kael fought like a prince. But Rayan fought like a man possessed. In the chaos, Rayan's blade found Idris, piercing his side. No, Kael screamed, pulling Idris away. The guards lit smoke bombs. Confusion filled the chamber. When the smoke cleared, Rayan was gone, and Idris lay bleeding. Scene 5. Farewell, old friend. In a quiet chamber, Idris lay dying, his blood soaking the same soil he once swore to protect. Kael knelt beside him. Don't speak, just rest. Idris grinned weakly. You have your father's strength, but not his cruelty. That's why you must win. Kael held his hand. I never wanted this war. Idris coughed blood. But it wants you. The final breath, Idris whispered, end him. And then, silence. Kael stood, tears in his eyes, but fire in his soul. Swear, Idris, he'll never wear that crown. Scene 6. Rayan's wrath. Far away, in the secret chambers of the East Wing, Rayan threw his sword against the wall. He knew. He played me. Sahira entered, then stopped playing. Ended. Rayan turned to her, eyes dark. Well, but not by sword. He held a vile green liquid glowing in the dark. I'll kill the king, framed Kael, and take the crown in daylight. Sahira smiled. Now you speak like a king. Scene 7. Poison in the royal cup. The following night, in the Grand Hall, King Zalron hosted a private dinner. His health was failing, his mind weaker than ever. Kael sat at his side, quiet, watching every move. Rayan stood by the wine, smiling. As the king raised his goblet, Rayan moved forward, but Kael's hand shot out. Don't drink that. The king blinked. Why? Kael took the goblet, sniffed it, then poured it over a silver plate. The silver turned black. Gasps echoed in the hall. Kael stood. This wine is poisoned, and only one person poured it over. All eyes turned to Rayan. He didn't deny it. He simply smiled. You still don't get it, brother. This crown is mine. Kael looked at the stunned courtiers. He just tried to murder the king. Rayan drew his sword. So what? That's how kings are made. In the heart of Velmora, the royal siblings faced off, each with a claim to the Iron Throne. The king, too weak to intervene, watched with haunted eyes as the plot thickened around him. Kael, fueled by the memory of his mother and his fallen comrade, hunted his brother through the twisting corridors of the palace. Every step echoed with the weight of their shared past. Rayan, relentless and cunning, turned the very walls of Velmora against his brother, using spies and assassins to turn the castle into a deadly maze. Each encounter brought Kael closer to the truth of his parents' demise, revealing a conspiracy that ran deeper than he'd imagined. Yet amidst the chaos, a new alliance sparked between Kael and an enigmatic knight named Lyra. Their partnership, forged in the fires of adversity, promised to be the key to unraveling the secrets of the past and securing the future of Velmora. But with every revelation, the stakes grew higher, forcing Kael to confront not only his brother's army, but also the darkness within himself. Would he embrace his role as a vengeful prince, or find a way to end the bloodshed without sacrificing his soul? The fate of Velmora hung in the balance as the Game of Thrones reached its climax. Thank you for watching, and thank you to our supporters for making these stories possible. If you want to see more stories like this, please hit subscribe and come back next week for another adventure. Until then, stay safe and keep adventuring. A long time ago in a faraway land lived a powerful king named Zalron. He ruled the prosperous kingdom of Velmora with an iron fist. For decades, he had kept his people safe and secure, expanding their borders and making them wealthy. But as the years went by, he grew weary of ruling. And so he decided to pass the torch to his eldest son, Kael. Now Kael was a kind and compassionate young man who had been trained in the arts of diplomacy and statecraft. But his father's decision caused a rift between him and his younger brother, Rayan. You see, Rayan was a hot-headed warrior who had been groomed for the battlefield, not the throne room. He felt that he was more deserving of the crown and spent his days plotting how to get it. Meanwhile, Kael set out to prove himself worthy of the kingdom, traveling the land and meeting with other rulers to forge alliances. But when he returned home, he found that his brother had poisoned the king and taken the throne for himself. Now Kael refused to stand by and watch as his people were oppressed. So he fled into the wilderness, vowing to reclaim the throne for the good of Velmora. As the years passed, Kael gathered followers to his cause, massing a small army of loyal subjects who were tired of Rayan's tyrannical rule. Together, they launched a rebellion, taking back towns and villages from the north. All the while, Rayan grew increasingly paranoid, believing that his enemies were out to get him. And so he fortified the capital city and prepared for a siege. One day, Kael and his army arrived at the city gates and demanded that Rayan surrender. But when he refused, they began a long and brutal siege. Kael knew that if he wanted to defeat his brother, he needed to take the fight to him directly. So he led a group of his most trusted warriors into the city. They fought their way through the streets, battling Rayan's soldiers all the way to the palace. Meanwhile, Rayan paced back and forth in his throne room, waiting for his enemy to arrive. He knew that he was outnumbered, but he was also desperate to prove himself as the rightful heir to the throne. As Kael and his men entered the throne room, they were met with the sight of Rayan standing tall on a raised platform. His face was grim, but his eyes burned with determination. "Brother," Kael said, his voice echoing through the room. "It's over. Give up, and I'll let you live." Rayan sneered. "Never. This throne is mine by birthright. And no one, not even you, can take it from me." With that, he charged forward, his sword raised high. Kael was taken aback by his brother's ferocity, but he quickly recovered and met Rayan's attack head-on. The two brothers fought fiercely, their swords clashing as they exchanged blow after blow. Kael knew that he couldn't win by brute force alone. So he used his agility to dodge and weave, trying to find an opening in Rayan's defense. Meanwhile, Rayan roared with anger, his attacks becoming more reckless as he tired. Suddenly, Kael saw his chance. He feinted to his left, then lunged forward, his sword aimed at Rayan's heart. Rayan parried the blow, but he was too slow. Kael pressed his attack, driving his sword deep into his brother's chest. Rayan gasped as the blade pierced his armor, but he managed to stay on his feet. You bastard," he spat, clutching his wound. "You'll pay for this." Kael didn't reply. He simply pulled his sword out and watched as Rayan collapsed onto the platform, his life draining away. Now, as Rayan lay dying, a strange look of regret crossed his face. He looked up at his brother and whispered, I'm sorry. I didn't mean for things to end like this." Kael hesitated, torn between his desire for revenge and his compassion for his brother. But in the end, he couldn't bring himself to forgive Rayan. "You chose this path long ago," he said coldly. "Now face the consequences." With that, he turned and walked away, leaving Rayan to die alone in the throne room. And so, after years of struggle, Kael had finally reclaimed the throne for Velmora. But as he stood in the throne room, surveying the damage wrought by his brother's reign, he couldn't help but feel a sense of sadness. He had won the battle, but at what cost? His kingdom was in ruins, and his brother was dead. As the weeks and months passed, Kael worked tirelessly to rebuild Velmora. He enacted reforms to make the kingdom more fair and just, and he reached out to other rulers to forge new alliances. But he could never escape the guilt he felt over his brother's death. He had always been a kind and compassionate ruler, but now he seemed distant and detached. One day, as Kael was walking through the palace gardens, he came across an old woman sitting on a bench. She was hunched over, her face hidden beneath a tattered shawl. Kael approached her cautiously. "Can I help you, ma'am?" he asked. The old woman looked up and smiled sadly. "You don't need to help me, young king," she said. "I am here to help you." Kael was confused. "What do you mean?" The old woman gestured to the gardens around them. "These beautiful flowers," she said. "Do they not remind you of someone?" Kael frowned. "What do you mean?" the old woman continued. "Your brother Rayan, he loved these gardens. He would spend hours here every day talking to the flowers, making them grow." Kael looked back at the flowers, their petals unfurling in the morning sun. He remembered his brother's passion for nature, how he would bring rare seeds from his travels and plant them in the gardens. A pang of guilt shot through him. He had been so focused on defeating Rayan that he had forgotten the man he had once been. "Thank you," he whispered, realizing that he had lost sight of what truly mattered. The old woman smiled and disappeared into the crowd, leaving Kael to ponder her words. From that day on, Kael made it his mission to honor his brother's memory by making Velmora a better place. He created parks and gardens throughout the kingdom, and he enacted laws to protect the environment. And though he never forgot the pain and suffering Rayan had caused, he also came to understand the root of his brother's evil, a deep-seated insecurity and resentment that had festered for years. As the years went by, Kael's rule became known throughout the land as the Golden Age of Velmora. But despite his success, he never forgot the lessons he had learned. He understood that true power lay not in brute force or military might, but in the ability to lead with wisdom, compassion, and justice. When it was time for him to pass the throne to his son, he knew that he had done all he could to make Velmora a beacon of hope and prosperity. And as he watched his son take his first steps towards kingship, he prayed that his young heir would follow in his footsteps and continue the legacy of peace and justice that he had worked so hard to build.